Dear friends, welcome to another episode in the fantastic military world. In this video, we will talk about the various statements and evidence proving the presence of NATO soldiers in Ukraine. But what exactly are these military personnel doing there? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. At the end of February 2024, the French President Emmanuel Macron, during an event in Paris, stated that to ensure Europe that Russia does not win the war, it started by inviting Ukraine. No option should be ruled out, including the deployment of European soldiers to Ukrainian soil. Macron's statement was reinforced in subsequent statements by himself and the French Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, generating a mixed response from NATO member countries, with some, like Germany under Chancellor Olaf Scholz, ensuring that they will not send soldiers to Ukraine, while others, like the Czech Republic, Finland, and the Baltic countries, agreed with the French president's statements, reinforcing that the possibility of sending European soldiers to Ukraine cannot be discarded to ensure Russia's defeat in the war. As expected, these statements were very poorly received in Russia, with the former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, and Vladimir Putin launching various threats involving even the use of nuclear weapons if European soldiers are indeed sent to Ukraine. However, now in March, after Macron's statements, various evidence and statements began to emerge indicating that alliance soldiers are already effectively operating on Ukrainian territory. One of the most explicit statements in this regard was made by the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, who on March 8 said that NATO soldiers are already in Ukraine, but he would not reveal the origin of those soldiers. Well before this, in October 2022, 9 months after the start of the invasion, General Pat Ryder, a Pentagon spokesperson, said in a press conference that the United States had military personnel stationed in Ukraine to monitor the delivery of American weapons and ammunition. In April 2023, a leaked document from the Pentagon confirmed that the United States, France, United Kingdom, Lithuania, and the Netherlands had about 100 Special Forces military personnel in Ukraine, officially detailed to protect their respective embassies, with other sources indicating that in fact, those military personnel were there for the training of Ukrainian Special Forces. All these evidences and statements, with emphasis on the recent ones from Macron, and mainly from the Polish Chancellor Sikorski, who, as mentioned, effectively confirmed that there are alliance soldiers in Ukraine, raised some very serious and important questions. The main one being, what exactly are these soldiers doing there? Based on observations of the combat and equally on data provided by Russia about prisoners of war, we conclude that these military personnel are not deployed on combat missions on the front line, as if they were. It is very likely that some would have already been killed or captured by Russia, which would certainly have made a big fuss to show the world that NATO soldiers are fighting for Ukraine. Since this did not happen, with Russia limiting itself to informing that the foreign fighters captured in Ukraine are all former military personnel who are no longer in active service for their respective countries, the conclusion reached is that, at least for now, there are no alliance soldiers fighting in Ukraine. So, if NATO military personnel are not fighting on the front line, what are they doing in Ukraine? For obvious security reasons, this is a question for which there is no direct and certain answer. However, the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, may have inadvertently given a clue about the activities carried out by these military personnel. In a statement in March, trying to justify his decision not to send the German missile Taurus to Ukraine, he said that, as it is a very advanced technology that requires special equipment to be programmed, if it were sent to Ukraine, Germany would have to do the same as the United Kingdom and France already do with the Storm Shadow and the Scalp. That is, it would have to send German military personnel to support the Ukrainians in the preparation and programming of the Taurus. In this statement, the German Chancellor inadvertently confirmed once again that NATO military personnel are already in Ukraine, carrying out the important mission of guiding the preparation and programming of long-range missiles. Therefore, based on these indications, we conclude that the military personnel currently deployed in Ukraine are performing missions such as embassy security for their countries, supporting the logistical effort involved in the delivery of Western weapons and ammunition, preparing and programming more advanced and complex weapons that require special equipment such as Storm Shadow missiles, and probably also conducting training missions such as Special Forces units. Does this mean that what President Macron said is already happening in Ukraine after all? From what was possible to understand from the French statements, what Macron said involves a much larger European participation, far beyond just being there to program weapons or to train special forces. The French president said that alliance military personnel would also have to ensure the security of some borders and operate air defenses. The objective would be to free about 25% of Ukrainian military personnel who are currently deployed along the Belarusian border, or are involved in the important task of protecting Ukrainian skies from Russian planes, missiles, and drones. To fully accomplish this mission, it is estimated that a minimum of 30,000 to 35,000 NATO military personnel would be needed. All of them, important to remember, officially deployed within a country at war against Russia. To maintain so many alliance soldiers in a country at war, NATO would need to involve a gigantic logistical and defensive apparatus, with some sources estimating that, in total, the alliance would need to involve more than 100,000 soldiers to maintain a fixed contingent of 30,000 soldiers in Ukraine, acting to protect the Belarusian border and for air defense. With the alliance's military apparatus so large, often superior to what currently exists, even if these soldiers are not sent to the front lines, Vladimir Putin can effectively declare that the alliance is officially at war against Russia. With this, he could give the Russians the freedom to directly attack the countries of origin of those soldiers, attacks that, as we can well imagine, will inevitably lead to a widespread war in Europe. And we know very well that widespread wars in Europe can quickly turn into world wars. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe and activate the notification bell to not miss any news, criticisms, ideas, or suggestions. You can leave them in the comments.